The Pacific Northwest woods are suffocatingly dense, but tonight the rain makes them a cage. Heavy, violent drops slam against the canopy, drowning out every sound except the rhythmic pounding of water on mud. Liam stumbles through the deluge, his flashlight beam cutting through the mist, revealing nothing but ancient, weeping pines. His clothes are soaked to the skin, his breath coming in ragged, freezing gasps. Suddenly, through the curtain of downpour, the silhouette of an abandoned, dilapidated logging cabin appears. It looks decaying, its wooden porch rotting, but to Liam, it is salvation. He lunges forward, throws his weight against the heavy oak door, and bursts inside. He slams the door shut, throwing the deadbolt. The sudden silence from the wind is deafening, leaving only the aggressive, rhythmic drum of the rain on the tin roof. Liam collapses against the door, panting. He shines his flashlight around. The cabin is empty, stripped bare except for an old iron stove and a single, dust-covered rocking chair in the corner. "Great, just great," Liam mutters, his voice trembling from the cold. He takes off his drenched jacket and drops it to the floor. He walks over to the window, wiping a layer of grime from the glass to look outside. The storm is worsening, lightning flashes, illuminating the woods in a harsh, brief white light. For a split second, Liam freezes. In the middle of the downpour, standing perfectly still amidst the swaying trees, is a tall, shadowy figure. It has no umbrella, no raincoat. It is just standing there, facing the cabin. Liam blinks, shaking his head. Another flash of lightning illuminates the woods. The figure is gone. "Just shadows," he whispers to himself, trying to calm his racing heart. He turns away from the window, but stops dead in his tracks. The wet jacket he had dropped by the door is gone. In its place, a trail of muddy, soaking wet footprints leads from the door, across the floorboards, and stops directly behind the rocking chair in the corner. The chair is now slowly, silently rocking back and forth. The air in the cabin plummets to a freezing, sub-zero temperature. Liam's breath clouds heavily in front of him. From the ceiling above the rocking chair, water begins to drip. But it isn't clear rain. It is thick, dark, and smells faintly of copper. Liam steps back, his boots crunching on the dry debris of the floor. His flashlight beam shakes violently, illuminating the rocking chair. It continues to sway, creak, 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 defying the laws of physics. There is no wind inside. "Who's there?" Liam shouts, his voice cracking. "I have a knife. I'm armed." No response. Only the relentless pounding of the rain outside, which now sounds less like weather and more like thousands of tiny fingers scratching at the walls, trying to get in. Liam slowly backs up toward the old iron stove, keeping his eyes locked on the chair. The dark liquid dripping from the ceiling is pooling on the floorboards now. He looks up. The ceiling isn't leaking from the storm. The wood is completely dry, yet the dark, viscous fluid is manifesting out of thin air, falling drop by drop onto the chair. Suddenly, the rocking stops. The cabin grows so quiet that Liam can hear the ticking of his own wristwatch. Then, a sound begins to echo from the walls. It's a wet, squelching sound, like someone walking in deeply flooded boots. It isn't coming from the floorboards, it is coming from inside the walls. The sound moves around the perimeter of the room, traveling through the rotting wood. Liam follows the noise with his flashlight. As the sound passes the windows, The glass begins to fog up from the outside, as if something incredibly hot is pressing its face against the pane. Liam runs to the door, grabbing the deadbolt. It won't budge. The metal is freezing, burning his skin with cold. The keyhole begins to ooze the same dark, coppery liquid, pouring over his hands. He stumbles back in horror, wiping his hands on his jeans. Then the scratching starts, not on the door, but directly underneath his feet. Something is trapped in the crawlspace beneath the cabin, and it is clawing at the floorboards with frantic, desperate energy. "Let me out!" Liam screams, throwing his shoulder against the heavy door. It feels like solid brick. Behind him, a wet, gargling whisper echoes through the dark cabin, perfectly synchronized with the rhythm of the rain outside. It never washes away, Liam. It only drowns. Liam spins around, his back pressed hard against the locked door. The flashlight beam darts across the room. There is no one there, but the air is thick, smelling heavily of stagnant river water and decay. The scratching beneath the floorboards suddenly stops. A heavy, suffocating dread fills the room. Then, the rain outside changes. The sound of water hitting the tin roof transforms into a terrifying cacophony of desperate, muffled screams and weeping, as if hundreds of souls are trapped inside the storm itself, begging for release. Liam covers his ears, dropping to his knees. "Stop it! Stop it!" he shrieks. As he looks down, he gasps. The dark liquid that had pooled around the rocking chair is no longer just sitting there. It is rising. It's defying gravity, flowing upward in thin, thread-like streams toward the ceiling, creating a bizarre, inverted curtain of black water right in the middle of the room. Through the gaps in this liquid curtain, Liam watches in absolute horror as the shadows in the corner of the room begin to separate themselves from the walls. They stretch and distort, forming the silhouette of a humanoid figure. It is unnaturally tall, its limbs elongated and jointed backward. The entity takes a step forward. Where its face should be, there is only a hollow, swirling vortex of dark water, spinning violently. Liam tries to scramble to his feet, but his boots slip. The floor is no longer dry wood. It has turned into a shallow pool of black, freezing water that seemingly came from nowhere. The water is rising rapidly, already covering his ankles. The entity raises a dripping, skeletal arm, pointing directly at Liam. The window panes violently shatter inward. Glass rains down, but instead of the storm blowing into the cabin, the floodgates open. A massive wave of black water surges through the broken windows, hitting Liam like a freight train. He is knocked off his feet, submerged entirely in the freezing, pitch-black liquid inside the closed room. He thrashes, kicking toward the surface, but the ceiling feels miles away. He is drowning inside a room that should only be 10 feet high. Underneath the black water, the laws of the physical world cease to exist. Liam gasps, instinctively swallowing the freezing, metallic-tasting liquid. His lungs burn. He opens his eyes, but the water stings, blurry and dark. The flashlight in his hand is still miraculously working, casting an eerie, conical beam through the underwater abyss. The interior of the cabin is gone. There are no walls, no stove, no rocking chair. He is floating in a vast, endless underwater ocean, surrounded by submerged, dead pine trees that stretch down into a bottomless trench. This isn't a flash flood. He has been pulled into another dimension, the domain of the entity. Liam frantically swims upward, kicking his legs, desperately searching for a surface, light, anything. But everywhere he looks, it's just an endless expanse of dark water. Suddenly, he sees them. Floating all around him in the water are other people. Dozens of them. They are bloated, their skin a pale, sickly blue, their eyes wide open and lifeless. They are wearing clothes from different eras, some in modern hiking gear like him, others in flannel shirts from the 1950s, and some in old logging clothes from the late 1800s. They are the previous victims of the storm. They aren't just floating, they are drifting slowly toward him, their limbs moving limply in the current. Liam tries to swim away from them, but a sudden undercurrent grips him, dragging him backward. He twists around and shines his flashlight down into the deep trench below. Rising from the darkness is the entity. In the water, its true form is visible. It is a colossal, monstrous manifestation of decomposed bodies, woven together by thick, black river weeds and rotting wood, all shifting and writhing under a single massive glowing white eye that burns with ancient malice. The entity opens a massive, gaping maw in the center of its mass. The suction is immediate and violent. Liam is pulled downward, spinning out of control. He drops his flashlight, watching its light fade into the depths as he is dragged into the waiting darkness. The storm outside the cabin finally begins to slow, tapering off into a gentle, deceptive drizzle. The morning sun tries to break through the thick gray clouds, casting a pale, weak light over the Pacific Northwest forest. The logging cabin stands perfectly still, looking exactly as it did the night before. A group of search and rescue volunteers, wearing bright orange jackets, hike through the damp woods. They are looking for Liam, who was reported missing 2 days ago. "Hey! Over here! I found a cabin!" one of the searchers shouts, pointing toward the structure. 2 other searchers run up, their boots squelching in the mud. They approach the porch cautiously. The door is unlocked, swinging gently in the morning breeze. They step inside, flashlights drawn, though the morning light fills the room. The cabin is bone dry. There is no water on the floor, no broken glass, no sign of a struggle. The old iron stove sits rusted in the corner, and a dust-covered rocking chair stands perfectly still. "Liam?" the lead searcher calls out. "Anyone in here?" Nothing. The cabin is completely abandoned. "Look at this," another searcher says, pointing to the center of the room. Lying flat on the dry, dusty floorboards is Liam's backpack and his smartphone. The phone's screen is cracked, but it's still blinking with a low battery warning. The lead searcher picks up the phone. On the screen, a video recording is paused. He hits play. The video is pitch black, but the audio is terrifyingly clear. It's the sound of violent rushing water, heavy gasping, and Liam's voice screaming in absolute primal terror. Then, a wet, gargling whisper drowns out his screams. "You belong to the rain now." The audio ends with the sound of a heavy splash, followed by eerie, dead silence. The searchers look at each other, pale and visibly shaken. Outside, the gentle drizzle suddenly turns back into a heavy downpour. Drops slam violently against the tin roof. The lead searcher shivers, wiping a drop of moisture from his neck. He looks closely at the water drop on his finger. It isn't clear rain. It is thick, dark, and smells faintly of copper. From the corner of the room, the dust-covered rocking chair begins to creak, slowly rocking back and forth on its own.